Well, hello again on this continuing discourse of the Corona dialogues, the Corona Chronicles, the Chronicles, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's like I keep saying all along, it's the greatest education any of us will ever get. It's just remarkable. We're learning things not only about ourselves, but about the people around us, the world we live in, the societies we occupy, the the natural world, the heavens, the earth, everything. We're learning things, dormancy, landscapes are waking up, like that, the bog over there. Dormant nature spirits are waking up, animals are everywhere. But at the same time, it's now ending, it's as clear as anything. Austria stopped the lockdown yesterday, and the Czech Republic, their neighbours, did the same today. People here are not obeying it as like they did. You can see there's a lot more traffic on the roads and stuff like that. You hear them going by. When I started making these videos during the lockdown, this road, I could play football in the middle of it, like kids did 20 years ago. And before they built the school, and they're on the way to the shops down there. And they built a big secondary school down that way, about half a mile down there. And it made the road a lot busier. Now, uh, so it's you can that's always been a thing, a barometer. The amount of traffic on the road, like when the economy crashed in 2008, there was a lot less people working around here, so or they'd moved to Dublin or emigrated, and so there was not the same traffic. And then when things picked up again, more cars. So it's a great barometer, the amount of people on the road, because sheeple must, normies must. Now, so there's loads to talk about today. And again, thank you for being here and being part of this. It's helping me a lot too. I'm learning an awful lot about me and you and guys and everything. I feel very connected and bonded to you all. So let's talk about oil first. Oil is dead. Look at the price of it right now. It's basically dead. It has been dead for a long time. There's oil is a kind of is like diamonds. It's a mythological thing. You know, you can manufacture diamonds from carbon, and you can manufacture oil from coal. In fact, that's how a lot of Germany during the during World War II got its oil. It was from a method, I think it was called the Basilian method or something, but it was basically boiling coal or something like that. And they had vast amounts of coal in the Ruhr region of Germany, and they were able to make oil out of it. Of course, it's not as efficient as pumping it out of the ground, but they were doing it. And so you can synthesize oil and you can synthesize diamonds. But is that how they're made by nature? Uh, Oil is dead essentially. Even though there's as much oil, there's probably more oil in the ground than there's ever been. Remember when we were growing up, they told us that all the oil would be gone by the year 2000, it'd all be used up. You know, the usual doomsday thing they control the masses with. That never happened. Do you ever notice that? Like the doomsday clock. When I was a kid, there was a thing called the doomsday clock, and we were 2 minutes to midnight. And it was all the usual types. Don't argue with science. The science is settled. Never argue with scientists. That we were 2 minutes away from being destroyed because of nuclear armament and the tensions in the world and pollution and the oil running out. So the doomsday clock, that never happened. And just like the ozone layer never happened. I know it did heal up, but just like the ice age never happened. And you have all the white coats and all the scientists and all the media saying, but how can you argue with scientists? And yet they've been wrong over and over again with these things. The death bomb, and there used to be a clock in Manhattan that used to show the death of the United States. And you'd all say, oh, one day now we'll have no money. It never happened. And so on. Killer bees, and they've always done this to us. This is all comes from Abrahamic Christianity, Judgment Day. That's where all this is all rooted in. So oil vanishing was always one of them, and there's all more oil in the world than there ever was. You know, the Russians are digging oil out from something like 18,000 feet under the ground. I mean, I don't know how dinosaurs got down there, but they're getting oil from there. Wells that have emptied are mysteriously filling up again. It's almost like they don't know what oil is. I know there's the whole thing, abiotic oil and all that stuff, but it's oil is a very mysterious substance. It could be made from dinosaurs. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a geologist, and wells could be filling up because they're spilling in from other wells and they're beside it. So I'm not going to say it's the earth, the blood of the earth. But I have heard some amazing stories over the year, particularly when that Gulf, when that oil rig blew up in the Gulf of Mexico about 11 years ago. They said that there was all kind of amazing conspiracy theories that or stories coming out of it that the French sent the military down there because they discovered that the oil had consciousness, it was alive, which is kind of like very Lovecraftian, isn't it? And so anyway, oil is dead as a commodity. It's worth nothing at the moment. The Rockefeller family, for the first time in 150 years, have stopped dealing with oil. That's because they're all going into medications and pharmacy and, you know, vaccines. This is the future. This is what they're doing. They're developing the vaccine age, the big pharma age, and this is where all the money of the big shots is all going, as well as biotechnology, putting chips inside us and everything else, and charging us for us like a little computer inside your head that monitors your health, and you pay a subscription service to someone like Elon Musk, and this is and then when you need a medicine, it's automatically administered through something in your clothes. There'll be like a thing in your clothes that seeps it into your skin, and that'll be owned by like Microsoft and the Rockefeller Foundation. Just business. This is how these psychopaths are, and they needed the event to bring this all in, and we're living in it right now. And that's really what this is all about. It's just business, and this is the ply and trade of psychopaths. And these families have remained in power because they create the needs of the future. Like Standard Oil, the Rockefellers company, they got them and Goodyear and Firestone got together and bought up all them. You see, there's a myth when the thing they say about Americans never took, excuse me, Americans never took to rapid transit and public transit. It's simply not true. Up until the 1930s, the United States, even rural areas, were covered in rail lines and passenger. They were called interurbans. Look it up. They were like light rail today. They covered, even like rural Maine had them, Wisconsin, Virginia. They were Pennsylvania. They fed into the main rail lines at railheads. New Jersey had the biggest trolley, the Americans call them trolleys, we call them trams, system in the world. The public service utility. It ran out of Newark, New Jersey. They had in the 1930s a terminal in Newark, New Jersey. There's still a bit of it left. That's the New Jersey subway. I think it's now light rail now. But that was like the public utility company. It was 2 floors of trams or trolleys coming in and out, serving all over northern New Jersey in this like modern building. Look at this was all over the United States. South Pacific, the Pacific Electric, I think it was called, a vast light rail system around LA. Now, so that's not true that Americans never wanted public transport. They were using it and taking advantage of it as much as Europeans do. What happened was, in the 1930s, 20s and 30s, Standard Oil, the Rockefellers, got together with Goodyear and Firestone, and the three of them together started buying up all these interurbans, trolley lines, tram lines, and commuter rail systems. And what they started doing was wrecking them to the point where there was a crash somewhere, I think it was in Milwaukee, where people died because they were telling them not to maintenance. So that the tram systems, the trolley systems got worse and worse and worse. And then they replaced them with buses, bustitution, and eventually cars. And see, that's where Firestone and Goodyear came in. They made the tires for the buses and the cars, and of course Standard Oil made the diesel and the oil. And so they created a future that didn't exist for the purpose of just business. So, they destroyed the public transport system in America where they could. There was places they couldn't do it, like New York. It wouldn't have been feasible. But they tried, and they wrecked They wrecked the commuter rail lines and everything. And this is like in America today, commuter rail and trolleys and trams and light rail is all coming back, but those systems already existed. The Rockefellers and Standard Oil, Goodyear, and Firestone destroyed them on purpose. And that came out in Senate hearings, and that's a well-known thing in America. It's not like a mystery. So they destroyed public transport so everyone would be dependent upon the cars. And then they lobbied the U.S. government to build the interstate highway system, which is based on the autobahns in Germany. And by the 1950s came around, America was crisscrossed in these enormous motorways, highways, and interstates. And this was not done to make America more competitive. This was done to make Goodyear, using taxpayers' money, make a Goodyear richer. And Rockefeller's richer, and all the oil companies, and so on. Now, uh, it's the same. It's happening again now. The exit strategy out of oil has begun, and the future is biotechnology and big pharma, and so that's where they're all moving in now. And even Microsoft is divesting from software for the simple reason that they missed out on the mobile phone thing, and they missed out on the mobile device thing, and so they've got to find so the new thing will be vaccine subscriptions, licenses for vaccines. It's clear as day. This is what they're after, and the evidence is staring you in the face, and they've created this church of COVID-19. It's in the same way they used Edward Bernays and marketing companies to create the mystique of the motor car, the sexualization of the motor car. Remember, the car before that was just a family thing to get around in, the automobile. But they used advertising to say, you won't, young men, you won't get laid unless you have the right car. And then create the whole mystique, around rock and roll and the 58 Chevy and all this stuff. And that was all marketing. Now they're doing the same now, but they've created the religion of the motor car in America. Very much so. And what was really gained from it? Okay, personal independence, people were able to live far away from home, but look what happened to cities like Detroit. And how people could be still devoted to a company that moved all the factories out of Detroit and put them into, there's a beautiful blue tit over there, and put them into Canada or Mexico, and let Detroit die, as a city. And you have a look at their Union Station. It's an incredible building. That thing was only being fixed up now, and they're doing it now at the vaccines and all this stuff. So, but the important thing was to culturalize it. You see, you can't just develop a product and say you need this product. You have to re-alter and reorganize and re-engineer the culture to do it. And they've done this with the COVID-19 thing. Now, they've created a religion to the point where, in old Catholic society, if someone was a stigmata, the family would feel blessed. My daughter is a stigmata, she bleeds the wounds of Christ. And it was something to boast about among Catholic peasants. The stigmata today, among the secular types and among the normies and the meat, is the respirator. The respirator is the stigmata. Oh, I know someone on a respirator. You do? Oh, wow. That's literally what they're like. That is literally what they're like. Did you know that Mary down at number 25, her sister's cousin's boyfriend's uncle's milkman, his second cousin, third aunt's best friend is on a respirator. Oh, you see, they created a stigmata. That's the new stigmata. It's just part of the religious thing. And Russia today picked up, well, not from me, but remember I was telling you a few weeks ago that this was the beginning of an emergence, a new secular religion. Russia Today did a fantastic piece on it yesterday, calling the face masks the new rosary beads. I was calling it the face burqa, but the same idea. I'm wearing a face mask. I'm one of the religious people. I'm outside in England, and I'm not putting down English people or Scots people or Welsh people, because the Irish would do this too if they were told. Anyone would. Normies are normies everywhere. This is one of the things you will learn. You should have learned from all this, that idiots are everywhere. And most countries are full of idiots, but all the cool people come from everywhere too. So the days of you thinking I'm better than someone because I'm Irish, or I'm better than someone because I'm Italian or that's all over. You've now discovered that you're surrounded by idiots, right? In whatever country you live in. And all the cool people are the same. We're in every country that haven't been brainwashed. And so you have them out banging out, the ones in England and UK out banging at 8 o'clock every evening, torturing animals and autistic people and blowing horns and sirens. That's a religious festival. That's like the old Catholic Corpus Christi parades. That everyone, in the village in Ireland and the village in Italy, when the priest called a devotion to the blood of Saint Mark, Saint something or other, they they I've got this like I ate something then it's not sitting right with me, and the blood of the martyrs, and the they'd have a parade or like a Corpus Christi parade. Everyone in the village was expected to show up, and if you didn't show up and you were Catholic, you were suspect. And now it's come out that in England, women and kids who didn't show up on a street for banging pots and pans at 8 p.m. are now being exposed on Facebook as what? Well, they're heretics. Burn the witch. The witch that didn't come out at 8 p.m. and go dong 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 like us. This kind of thing. And they're creating the religion for the transhumanist elements of this new biotech pharma world coming, that the Rockefellers and the Gates and the Elon Musks will all own. And this is why they're saying the things they're saying, like you can't fly again unless you've been vaccinated. They're saying all these things to make people. They're building an industry going forward. Bill Gates is building an industry for his children and his grandchildren. The Rockefellers are doing the same for their legacy. It has nothing to do with public health. It has to do with building new industries. That's what's going on here. But in order to do that, you have to create a religiosity around it. And the religiosity around it, and when the automobile thing was the mystique of the motor car, the glamour of the car, that came right through as things like Top Gear to today. Now it's the glamour of the respirator, the glamour of the face mask, doctors and nurses on TikTok doing dance numbers, the new high priests. Now, I remember, like, when I lived in New York, I was amazed by how many hypochondriacs you'd meet there. That, like, now that's not, I'm not putting on Americans, I'm just saying that there's a lot of fucking hypochondriacs over there. And they run to the doctor for the slightest thing. It's like what's his name? Woody Allen. Oh my God, I got tumor. It's like that kind of thing. I got a headache. I must have a tumor. That kind of thing. And that really does exist there. Not so much in the South and the Midwest, they're a bit harder, but definitely in the Northeast, you would see that. They're total hypochondriacs. And I've noticed that here too. The biggest, hardest men walking around town are the ones most wrapped up in, masks and stuff, and terrified, and this gloves and all the stuff. Holy sacraments of the new religion and this kind of thing. And it's extremely sinister. Extremely sinister. We're now on the level of witch hunts and stuff like that. And, you know, and don't be intimidated by it. We used to always wonder how the Nazis came into power. Now we fucking know. We used to always wonder what kind of person would call the SS on a little child like Anne Frank and say she was living in the wardrobe. What kind of person would do that to an innocent little girl like that? Now we know. The fucker over there, the fucker on the end of your street, the fucker across your street, the fucker down the road, and the other fuckers over there. That's who. You're surrounded by them. You're surrounded by them. That's the great tragedy. You're surrounded by them. And now you know. Now it's no longer a mystery. It's most of the people you're fucking surrounded by. And now you've that's what I said, you've got the greatest education of a lifetime here. The greatest education you'll ever have happened during this. And they're moving all other kinds of agendas in now. We know that although the holy business sacrament of the establishment, the globalists, is to keep us basically on drugs, medicated constantly and monitored constantly. Another one is they want to legalize their own holy sacrament. Our holy sacrament at the moment is a respirator. That's our stigmata. Their holy sacrament is two things: pedophilia and legalization of pedophilia, and cash, removing cash. If we lose cash, we're really in a bad way in terms of freedom and things like that. Whatever we must do everything to keep cash in circulation. And that includes these monkeys who want universal basic income. All these dumb truther stoners, these fucking douchebags. You know who you are. You know, universal basic income was great. I'm going to get that now, and I'm going to like sit around all like smoking spliffs. No, they think they're going to get a pile of cash in their hand. You're going to get government credits, and they'll be and the income of those government credits won't be cash, and it'll be dependent upon how you behave. It's the Chinese social credit system plus. That's what your universal basic income is. And you lose. Cash has been around what, like 4,500 years or something, and now they're telling us it doesn't work. And it's the bankers again. The bankers are saying this, because and they want to account for every penny. These miserly fucks want to account for every penny on this earth, and that's why they hate cash, and they'll have total control over us. They're them. And the legalization of pedophilia. Well, you see, that was the great goal of getting Hillary Clinton as president. That was the central thing why all the deep state and all the establishment and all Hollywood and all the music industry heads, the ultimate primary reason for them supporting, and this is not hyperbole, them supporting Hillary Clinton as president was the legalization of pedophilia. If she had become president, not only would we probably be in a nuclear war with Russia right now, but Jeffrey Epstein would be around and doing his business as normal, because they would be immediately begin the legalization. You saw my documentary on the Greens, the origins of the Green Party. The initial platform was the legalization of pedophilia along with environmental issues. If you look at the Agenda 90 platform of the German Greens, it is identical in so many ways to what the Clintons wanted for their platform and the likes of Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, except they hide the paedophilia thing in the back because we still haven't been brainwashed enough to accept that. But then it turns out now that Facebook is going to have a poll on if paedophilia is wrong or not. This is where we are now. They're going for broke now. They're going for broke. They're changing the skies at night with satellites in the line to play God. They're putting Elon Musk and the rest of them put chips inside you to alter your brain. There are scientists working on ways to kill your spirituality because they know it gets in the way. They want to work on drugs that will stop you being nationalist. This is the kind of world they're going for broke now. And this COVID-19, the absolute and spectacular success of getting the meat to comply. They didn't acquiesce, they complied willingly to the Church of COVID-19 has given them such confidence now. The attack on Trump yesterday when he said nothing about like injecting yourself with bleach. They're going for broke now. They think they can take Trump down in 2020. And they think they can get their pedophilia legalized. You remember those creatures, those purples on community standards in Facebook who get you banned for 30 days for hate speech or a benign harmless joke. They're like a lot of them have been eyeing up the 10-year-old down the road. Remember that the next time that happens on Facebook and you hear community standards, you think of some purple-haired hermaphrodite who's eyeing up the children in the local schoolyard. That's what you're dealing with. This is what they're putting in power. This is what the deep state is doing. It's altering us completely in order for us to not see them as the monsters that they actually are. Now, at the same time, don't be down and negative about it. There's lots of ways to subvert it. If they take away cash, we barter. Okay, we barter. As simple as that. And lots of other things like that. If they, there's lots of things. If they give you your pills, you don't have to take them. There's loads. And like I said to you about the mandatory vaccine thing, it won't happen. Look around you. If somebody landed in your street tomorrow and said, free vaccines for everyone, you know that 99% of your neighbours would run out with their sleeves rolled up. And that's all they want. They just want them. They don't care about you. So they're not going to come for you and inject you or anything like that. They've got people so frightened and brainwashed now. There's two things that make you... There's one thing that really makes you see the character of a human being. And that's fear. That's fear. And there's nothing more devious and treacherous and wicked than a frightened little man. There's nothing more dangerous, not dangerous, but I say treacherous, wicked, and you must be wary. Be wary of weak men. Weak, weak men are extremely treacherous, and because they will do anything, and be wary of them. And these are the ones who that they're playing on. These insecure men are the ones that they sold the cars to in previous generations to get the girl. Now they will sell them super drugs, and everything will. This is how they're going to do it. It's not going to be as nefarious, like stormtroopers coming down your street. They will use what they always used: peer pressure, peer pressure. But again, you don't have to be like this. This is the most amazing thing. The just because reality is facing you like this way doesn't mean you have to become compliant or be part of it. This is the whole thing. I would not do this if I thought everything was doomed. I would just go underground, do my own little things, and take care of myself. I wouldn't be putting myself up here as a target if I didn't have faith in people like us to escape all this, or to get around it, or deal with it. We will. It's no problem. But I'm just saying, the reason why I'm putting this out here is be prepared for what will happen. For every dark thing, there's a beautiful thing as well. Look at the nature at the moment. Look at the cleanness of the air. Look at the beautiful blue skies. I was talking to a friend in Northern Ireland yesterday who lives not too far from some rural megalithic sites, and he says, yeah, they've woken up in a completely different way. There's new energies in them. So look, there's lots of positives. Lots of us have learned new hobbies and things and stuff like that during this lockdown. Lots of us have meditated. Now, I know people have had bad days as well. And I mean, I had one day. I wouldn't say it was a bad day, but it was about a week ago. It was starting to like get on my nerves. But it wasn't. I know some people have handled it very badly. And that's understandable too. I'm not saying that you're weak or anything like that. We've been subject to something that's very new for us. And even though it wouldn't be as bad as things like going through a war or something like that, it's still a new experience. And when you have politicians constantly saying things about unseen enemy, and this idea of a germ, it's like it's like a curse or something like that. And you see the peer pressure of the 8 p.m. bangings. I'm so glad I don't live in the UK. I think I would go insane if I had to listen at 8 p.m. every night. And but that's all lost at seal. Just like people here are now driving back and forth to the shops all the time. They're losing control. And I said that when this thing ended, now I said Corona had lost its shine by April 9, which happened because April 9 was the date. It was in the Irish government just announced last week, was the date that the numbers of cases of coronavirus started to taper off. And they were even boasting about it. April 9 was a benchmark. And so we have the power to do these things, right? You're smarter and more powerful than you realize, okay? Now the thing is, as this thing is ending, you have to start thinking about where you are going forward. Now, some of you will have like lives will continue as on before, if you're fortunate. Others you have a business and stuff like that. You'll be rebuilding it, but think of it in a different way. There could be other opportunities. After World War II, there were people who went around going, "This is shit," but there were other people who invented what became rock and roll, which eventually became the music industry. And so they were the pioneers. They were the ones who sat around and said, I'm not going to be defeated. I sit at home waiting for the government to do something for me. I'll do it for myself. So there's loads of positives. You know, what I'm saying is not negative. It's challenges. It's only negative if you live in fear of it and throw yourself into it. Otherwise, they're challenges, okay? And these challenges bring out the character of the person you are. Any it's like when you're going through a bad time, you find out who your enemies are and who your true friends are. And it's the same thing like this. When you're going through something like this, you'll find out who the true friend to yourself is. And that's the most important thing to gather in all this. So I know a lot of stuff I spoke about in this video seems dark and foreboding, but there's always going to be people who, like us, who will find a way around it. We are the consciousness insurgents, and we are the new bohemians, and you hang on there, because I got news for you. They're not going to get away with the way they will, because there, there's enough of us. It's not like in the old days when our grandparents didn't have TV and didn't have the internet and they didn't have the access to communication like this, and they all had to depend on the wireless or the radio and broadcast from the government and the newspapers. It's different now. We've got, as much as they've got more tools against us, we've got more tools against them. We'll never forget that.